She's willing to step one more step over the line about sexuality and about real-life issues than most of the people around her.
Demi's determination to succeed in movies is sort of unequaled by any other movie star.
When you're clear on what it is that you're after, then nothing gets in your way.
She didn't look like anybody else. She didn't sound like anybody else. She was unique from the outset.
There wasn't a bad or dishonest frame on the cutting room floor. When you turn the camera on, she's there.
The big guys in suits don't necessarily like it when you're as smart as they are.
She was paid $12 million, which was the highest salary a female actor had ever been paid.
I feel like I'm just scratching the surface.
Lately, it's not Demi Moore's career that has been making headlines. It's her tumultuous relationship with Ashton Kutcher. After rumors of his infidelity, their subsequent Twitter war, and Demi's stint in rehab, the couple finally called it quits after 6 years of marriage. But 2 decades ago, Demi was the wife of Bruce Willis and on the verge of becoming Hollywood's it girl, thanks to a little movie called Ghost.
It was a really important turning point for her. The role was actually originally offered to both Molly Ringwald and Meg Ryan. Luckily for Demi, they turned it down.
Director Jerry Zucker resumed his search for the female lead. He had seen more on screen and knew she would be just right for the part of Molly Jensen, a young widow who reconnects with her husband's spirit after his murder.
It was really a film called The Seventh Sign that showed me that she had much more maturity than I had seen and greater strength than I had seen in her previous roles. I met Demi, but she didn't read for the part. I didn't feel I needed to have her read because I knew she could do it.
Ghost was a low-budget film with modest expectations.
The fact that Jerry made a love story work with a dead guy, it just had a lot of risky elements to it.
But it struck a chord with the audience and dominated the box office in the summer of 1990, drawing critical acclaim and even topping receipts of Die Hard 2, the popcorn thriller starring Bruce Willis.
Ghost really catapulted Demi into the A-list stratosphere.
It was a financial phenomenon, and it was also like movie of the year in the sense that you couldn't walk around the street if you hadn't seen Ghost. You couldn't talk to anybody.
It's hard to imagine that movie working and succeeding the way it did without Demi Moore. I'm just always endlessly grateful to her for being there and making the movie and giving it 100%.
Demi Moore's career had hit the stratosphere, and it was just the beginning. It was a combination of breathtaking beauty and relentless determination that catapulted Demi Moore from a trailer park to the top of Hollywood's glittering heap. Born on November 11, 1962, in Roswell, New Mexico, Demetria Jean Gines was named after a brand of shampoo by her heavy-drinking teenage mother, Virginia.
It tells us quite a lot about her mother. To name your daughter after a hair product is just kind of maybe a bit bizarre.
The family was poor and moved often. Demi learned early to not become too attached to the people around her.
They were always transient. They were always moving every 6 months. So when she got used to a certain surroundings, then she'd be moving again.
You can tell a lot about Demi as an adult by the way she describes her childhood. Yes, it was unstable. Yes, she had to move a lot, change schools, all the things that you hear kids weep about. But in the end, it seems that it made her stronger.
When Demi was 13, her alcoholic father, Danny Gines, walked out, and Demi learned he was not her real father, a fact her mother had failed to reveal.
The strange thing was that Demi grew up thinking that Danny Gines was her real father until she found the birth certificate in a drawer, and she realized that Charles Harmon was her real father. And so it's a feeling of betrayal and, mistrust and all those things that go with things that when someone's been lied to.
Virginia's work with a magazine distributor took Demi and her half-brother Morgan to a small apartment in Hollywood. Demi's home life became even more chaotic, and her mother's drinking spiraled out of control.
What do I wish I knew then that I know now? And I said, I wish that somebody would have just told me that I wasn't really crazy.
Demi was 15 when she met a girl from Germany who had moved to Hollywood to become an actress.
Natasha Kinski was a neighbor who lived in the same block of flats that Demi and her mother moved into in West Hollywood. She wanted to become an actress, and together they kind of learnt scripts, they ran through scripts, and there was this great bond.
I decided I was going to give it my best. Whether it was going to work or not, I didn't know, but I was willing to persevere, to give it all that I could to see if I could do it.
With Kinski's encouragement, Demi signed up with a talent agent and got a few bit parts on the daytime soaps. Like so many other aspiring young actresses before her, Demi was driven by ambition to make it in Hollywood. So she took her clothes off.
She knew a photographer. He took some very daring pictures, mainly topless, which ended up in We magazine on the front cover and also in a spread inside.
Demi decided to quit school and move out on her own, but her chaotic past followed her. Like her parents, Demi began drinking to excess. She started experimenting with drugs. Then, the man she had known as her father committed suicide.
The suicide of Demi's father, which happened when she was 17, was just one factor in a quite unstable and quite miserable home life.
Demi's drug and alcohol habits led her to the LA nightclub scene, where she met a wild rocker named Freddie Moore.
You're in Hollywood and it's so enticing. Yes, Demi definitely got into a bit of the party scene.
Within 2 days of going out with each other, Freddie Moore had dumped his wife and Demi had moved in.
Freddie and Demi were married a year later, in February 1980. Demi took her husband's name and began making it famous when she landed a regular role on General Hospital.
A lot of people look down on soap opera acting, but it is a great school. First of all, soap opera people have to look fantastic. And second of all, they have to work very fast.
If you choose to stay there, you can. And a lot of people do, and they like it. And I think that's great. For me, I didn't want to stay in doing a series or television, for that matter.
After a taste of television, Demi was hungry for greater success. She was determined to be a movie star.
Most people who become movie stars or actors, they all come from poverty, or they all come from childhoods that weren't quite as normal or weren't quite as happy as the regular people have. And I think that gives them the drive to want to succeed.
The striking young actress was drawing attention at Universal Studios, where she had a full-time contract on General Hospital. In a story right out of old Hollywood, director Joel Schumacher spotted Demi running down a stairwell and was smitten with her look. He sent an assistant chasing after her to find out if she was an actress.
Joel Schumacher's favorite expression comes from this piggy. He says, you know, some pigs got it and some pigs don't. And in Demi Moore, he saw one of those people who had it.
Schumacher was casting for a coming-of-age drama called St. Elmo's Fire. Demi looked perfect for the part of a coke-addicted wild child. Schumacher had just one question: could Demi Moore act? In 1985, Demi Moore was given the chance to play a beautiful, neurotic young woman in St. Elmo's Fire. It was a breakout role that offered a chance at stardom to the young actress who could still taste the poverty of her youth. But Demi's wild ways came dangerously close to blowing the deal.
Prior to making St. Elmo's Fire, certainly she was a party animal.
Demi's life at that time consisted of a lot of drugs, a lot of partying, and a lot of rock and roll.
Demi turned up for St. Elmo's Fire for the costume fitting. She turned up smelling like a brewery, in the words of Joel Schumacher.
Schumacher threatened to fire Moore, but he felt so strongly that she was right for the film that he gave her a second chance. With her movie career on the line, 22-year-old Demi checked into a rehab facility.
So she went away and she cleaned up her act, because this tells us an enormous amount about Demi's determination to succeed.
Moore showed up for rehearsals clean and sober and joined the group of sexy young actors who became known as the Brat Pack.
St. Elmo's Fire was a coming-of-age movie about a bunch of college graduates, and it really launched the Brat Pack, as the term was coined by New York Magazine.
The Brat Pack was sort of like the changing moment in film history and social history. You talk about teen idols or teen role models. The Brat Pack, in the best and the worst way, were role models.
During rehearsals for St. Elmo's Fire, Moore met Emilio Estevez, a son from the famous Sheen family. The pair felt an instant attraction.
They both were part of the original Brat Pack of the 80s and up from St. Elmo's Fire. So it shouldn't be actually that much of a surprise that they should get together.
And I knew them as a couple. I knew them back then. And people talked about the fact that, this was a step up for her to meet Emilio Estevez. But you gotta remember, she was a hot, interesting chick at the time, too.
Estevez was a serious actor who didn't like the partying reputation that came with the Brat Pack tag, but Moore had no problem with the publicity she drew as a member of the famous group.
I feel really positive. I'm happy to be a part of them. I've learned a lot from them.
What a great launching pad to be named the Brat Pack, because the Brat Pack obviously would get more attention than sort of any other general kind of movie with a general kind of cast.
Moore's next film, About Last Night, was a romantic comedy co-starring fellow Brat Packer Rob Lowe.
In that movie, both she and Rob Lowe began this long history of people falling in love with them, envying them, and also kind of almost making fun of them.
In 1986, Moore teamed up with her new boyfriend called Wisdom, which Estevez also produced. The experience introduced Demi to the power that came with producing your own material.
Demi's radar was alert to every opportunity.
You start on a soap opera and you realize the guys who are really getting the big toys are the people in the movies. You become a movie star and you realize that the people who get to move the chess pieces also have a different side of the action and can control their destiny.
Demi had divorced her rocker husband Freddie Moore in 1985, and just a year later announced her engagement to Estevez. The invitations were already in the mail when Demi called the wedding off.
She'd been married before, and something in her knew that it just wasn't right. I don't think those two people stopped loving each other, and they remained off and on good friends over the years.
A few months after splitting with Estevez, Moore met Bruce Willis, a wild, womanizing actor best known for his sexy detective series, Moonlighting.
Demi met Bruce Willis kind of under strange circumstances, if you like, because she was going to a screening of Estevez's movie, Stakeout. And if you think they'd broken up and they called off their wedding, maybe it was kind of a weird thing for her to consider going.
Demi was growing in her experiences and in her success, and Bruce was the hot, gettable bachelor. He was the mystery man, the hottest guy in town.
Walter Bruce Willis played a fast-talking, risk-taking detective on Moonlighting. Willis shared many of the same qualities with the popular TV character.
When they met, Bruce was certainly a party animal.
And Demi was a wild woman who needed a little taming too. I think they both challenged each other, and they both loved each other.
But most of the press didn't believe Moore and Willis would last a week. When the couple went on a beach holiday together, the headlines labeled it a fling. 4 months later, they were secretly married.
They went to Vegas to see a boxing match, and they ended up getting married.
When they returned to Hollywood, Bruce and Demi were married properly in a big swank ceremony presided over by Little Richard.
But they didn't want it photographed, they didn't want it pictured, so they held it on a Warner Brothers film lot. So basically the helicopters couldn't even spy on them, nobody could get in, there were no pictures to be released.
The combination of mercurial Willis and dynamite Demi was a tabloid lure. Everywhere they went, the paparazzi followed.
They couldn't take 2 steps. He couldn't change his jacket. She couldn't put on a dress or do her hair a different way that it didn't make headlines.
The media frenzy became so intense that the couple hired bodyguards to protect them. Then, one night, Moore was accidentally knocked down by the press at a Hollywood premiere. Willis was furious.
He got mad and he literally told them to clear off, and, enough is enough, go away, leave us alone. And of course they got pictures of him going wild at the paparazzi.
But the media became even more intrigued when Moore and Willis announced they were about to become parents. Demi insisted on a drug-free delivery. Her 15-hour labor was documented by 3 video cameras, and she invited friends to witness the entire event.
It was almost like shooting a movie because they had sort of 3 video cameras. And even when she was giving birth, her main concern was, is this all being caught on camera? Have you got it all? Have you got it all?
On August 16, 1988, Willis delivered the child himself, a girl named Rumor. Moore took time out to be a mom.
It wasn't like Demi complained a lot about her childhood, but she understood that what that lack of stability can do to you, and she was determined that she'd provide that for her child. And maybe at the same time, it was a way for her to grab some stability for herself.
Offers for movie roles kept coming in, but Moore was happy at home with her new baby. Then, Demi read a script for a project called Ghost, an inexpensive film with modest expectations. Demi instantly recognized that the story of love and spirituality would make her a star, and she had to be in it. In the early 90s, Demi Moore and Bruce Willis were becoming a Hollywood power couple. Now with a new baby in tow, Demi had to balance motherhood with career ambitions. An entourage followed her wherever she worked to help look after her infant daughter.
So far, it's been okay. And she comes to visit me every day, and that's how we make it work.
She demanded that this huge entourage accompany her on set. At every turn, she had a masseuse, a hairdresser, a psychic. You name it, she had it.
Was she demanding? Yes, but I also think Demi understood that that demand could help her not only do her job better, but be a mom at the same time, which is really hard.
After making the disappointing black comedy We're No Angels with Robert De Niro and Sean Penn in 1989, Moore read dozens of scripts looking for the role that would take her out of the realm of working actresses and into the select circle of movie stars.
Demi Moore was so driven and so ambitious that she makes Madonna look laid back by comparison.
When Moore read the script for Ghost, she knew the part of Molly Jensen would allow her to show more emotion on screen than any role she had played before. Director Jerry Zucker had seen Moore's performance in 1988's The Seventh Sign. When he found out Moore was interested and available, he stopped his search for Molly.
She was this elfin, lovable kind of character that everybody felt for, because Patrick Swayze, who played her husband or the boyfriend, got murdered, and it just kind of told the story of that he was in a good place even though he was dead.
Patrick Swayze and Whoopi Goldberg were already cast in the film that was part thriller and part love story. Moore surprised Zucker by showing up for filming with her long brown mane chopped short and a strong opinion about how her character should be portrayed.
The role could have become very kind of weak and wimpy, and I had an opportunity to kind of, you know, really bring some strength and some joy into what could have been a very dismal, down and depressing role.
Demi has real personality. Sometimes that's difficult, but she's someone to be reckoned with.
She fought Jerry Zucker all the way to the cutting room floor, as they say, to get the character a bit more in control, a bit more, you know, a bit more strength.
You know, we had our arguments. Demi can be difficult, but she's smart. I mean, Demi is really smart, so I'd much rather deal with a smart, difficult actor than a stupid, difficult actor.
Moore had never shed tears on screen before and was nervous about doing the emotional scenes the script called for. She hired an acting coach to teach her how to weep convincingly.
Demi Moore is the best crier I have ever met. Demi would give me a little signal that she was ready. It would just come. It would just be there and just at the right moment.
Ghost surprised most critics, who were expecting it to be a soppy summer romance.
I've never had a situation where critics are coming in telling me what they're going to quote, that they expect it to be the big sleeper hit of the summer, and they expect it to be the one movie that has a chance on blowing away the blockbusters, all the shoot 'em up, kill things.
That's exactly what Ghost did, bringing in more money than the movie expected to be the summer blockbuster of 1990, Bruce Willis's Die Hard 2.
Ghosts just took off, and you know, it was like having ghost fever everywhere, and the film actually ended up with $217 million box office.
She was also nominated for a Golden Globe, so that really validated her in a lot of ways. It was the first time that happened, even though she lost out to Julia Roberts.
Ghost was nominated for 4 Oscars, winning 2, Best Script and Best Supporting Actress for Whoopi Goldberg. Demi was on the A-list, and the Willises were now a bona fide Hollywood power couple.
I'm very happy. I should be happy. If I wasn't happy, I'd be stupid.
Demi and Bruce became the power couple of contemporary Hollywood, following in the tradition of Clark Gable and Carole Lombard, Spencer Tracy and Katharine Hepburn.
They had Hollywood cornered, and I can't think of anyone who's ever had that same sort of power, not before them and not since then.
But success drew envy, and the tabloids brought out their checkbooks for Moore's alcoholic mother. Virginia told them all about Demi's wild child days and partying nights, and sold her childhood photos.
It was just a bizarre thing because most people wouldn't actually sell their story to the newspapers or to a magazine about their own daughter.
Moore couldn't control her mother, but she and Willis wanted to exert more power over their careers. They formed separate production companies. The first movie for Moore's production company, Rough Glen Films, was Mortal Thoughts. She and Willis both starred in the film. Demi soon learned that being a producer meant she had to be tough.
Demi was regarded, if you like, in bitch terms, because she knew what she wanted and she wasn't going to be told what she wanted, because she was the producer. She was now in control of her movie.
Moore had become a Hollywood power player, commanding huge fees, choosing her own roles, reshaping them as she liked, and demanding an endless list of perks.
Demi always wanted more of everything. She wanted more money, she wanted more personal assistants, more people in her entourage. She earned herself the nickname Gimme More.
By the time Moore filmed The Butcher's Wife in 1991, she was handing out notes to other actors with hints on how they should play scenes.
If you're A-list, you can get away with quite a lot of things that most probably you wouldn't do if you weren't A-list. And one of those things to have your name above the title says a hell of a lot about the box office power that you have.
Early screenings of The Butcher's Wife indicated the film would flop, but Moore knew how to save it. She went looking for publicity and found it on the cover of Vanity Fair.
The Vanity Fair shoot, as it's now known, was in fact very controversial, because here we had a picture of Demi completely naked, head to toe, and pregnant.
The shot was taken originally for the Willis family, but it made the cover of Vanity Fair and became a social milestone.
It was banned, it was covered in, brown paper bags in some of the Bible sort of counties of America.
I think it was a combination. I think it was a real celebration of womanhood, and at the same time it was like, oh, show them.
Most of Middle America found it offensive and just plain gross. A lot of other people found it inspiring and beautiful. Either way, there were very strong reactions, which is something Demi is famous for.
Moore got the publicity she was looking for, and plenty of criticism to go along with it.
All of that is just stuff that gives people juice to talk about. They always look for things to tear people down or things to make them less of something, or a reason why you shouldn't look up to them or make them important.
By the time their second daughter was born, on July 20th, 1991, Demi Moore and Bruce Willis were Hollywood's highest profile power couple. They were both making millions on hit films and producing their own pet projects. And Demi was generating controversy that reached well beyond the movies. But was she going too far? By 1991, Demi Moore was a power to be reckoned with. Ghost had made her a bona fide movie star, and her nude and pregnant image on the cover of Vanity Fair had made headlines far beyond the entertainment pages. Riding a wave of worldwide publicity, Moore sailed into her next project, A Few Good Men.
A Few Good Men was very important to me. She kids around about the fact that everyone said, you're in a movie with Tom Cruise and there's no kissing and there's no love scenes. But that's exactly what she wanted. At a time when everybody was talking about her body and her being sexy.
When Moore joined the cast of A Few Good Men, she had third billing behind Tom Cruise and Jack Nicholson. But Demi didn't see it that way.
Demi had returned to making movies. They seemed to follow this entourage of hairdressers, nannies, publicists, you name it, they had it, bodyguards, helpers. And she also got this reputation of being a prima donna.
This time, Moore even insisted that Tom Cruise and Jack Nicholson get in line behind her.
She fought to have her trailer as the #1 trailer, which is kind of unheard of. You know, Jack Nicholson and Tom Cruise, you know, but she got her way, and so she got the trailer.
But being a movie star was no longer enough. Moore and husband Bruce Willis had a new business in mind. Along with Arnold Schwarzenegger and Sylvester Stallone, they launched Planet Hollywood.
It was a very successful restaurant, and it was basically for movie fans. It was, you know, being operated by the most formidable movie stars of that period.
Their careers were hectic, and the power couple now had 3 children. They bought a country home in Haley, Idaho, that could provide their growing family with a respite from the pressures of Hollywood.
They liked Idaho because they were out of the way. Nobody bothered them. They could walk around. They could do their shopping.
I think they found it a haven. I think they found it beautiful. They both appreciated the beauty of the environment.
But living in Idaho didn't stop Moore from making plans for another wave of publicity to accompany the release of A Few Good Men. She found her way back onto the cover of Vanity Fair with another controversial photo. This time, Demi was wearing a man's suit.
Demi was stark naked, but painted as if she had clothes on. And not until the cover came out and allowed enough time for speculation, you know, was it absolutely confirmed that this was just airbrush paint, skin, Demi, and paint.
That was a message to Hollywood that, you know, don't mess with me type of thing, because I can be feminine, but I can also be tough and powerful.
Soon after the controversial cover, Moore became the subject of water cooler chatter again as the star of Indecent Proposal. She demanded and got $5 million to star opposite Robert Redford.
Demi must be one of the few actresses that set the standard of what women should be paid in movies.
Indecent Proposal not only earned Demi a record-setting paycheck, it put her on the cutting edge of social discourse.
Indecent Proposal caused an enormous stir when it was released, because the premises of it was that, you know, would you sleep with someone for $1 million?
The running line was, would you sleep with Robert Redford for $1 million? And as Demi said, most people said to her, I'd sleep with Robert Redford for nothing.
Moore had spent her adult life chasing fame and fortune, and by the time Indecent Proposal came out, she had a unique perspective on the power of money.
Happiness comes from within. And I think it can make life nice, but it certainly doesn't buy you happiness.
What did make Demi happy was developing projects she could star in. She formed a new production company called Moving Pictures with her best friend Suzanne Todd. They chose a script called Disclosure for their first project.
Disclosure was one in a long line of movies about these kind of powerful, psychotic women taking advantage of these hapless male executives who are good, upstanding family men.
The cinema-going public would see the character she played in Disclosure as the real Demi Moore. That was, I think, the confusion of why her movies weren't suddenly as successful as her previous movies, because, you know, how many times can we watch Demi playing a sexual predator?
Moore was in total control of her career and was willing to take a risk. Moving Pictures was preparing to make its next film, The Scarlet Letter, based on Nathaniel Hawthorne's dense metaphorical novel.
Before the film was even released, there were objections that she would play Hester Prynne. It was just unbelievable to some that, you know, anybody would cast Demi Moore. Demi Moore, you know, is a sexual predator.
Moore could make any film she wanted, cast all the roles, and even change the ending. But her decisions weren't always the right ones.
It had a huge flaw, which was that they completely changed the ending, which made it way less believable. And Demi is not perhaps quite the right actress for that sort of role.
She had a very high profile. It was easy to make fun of her in a classic costume. It was easy to make fun of the whole notion of Scarlet Letter, and people were pretty mean about it.
The Scarlet Letter was an embarrassing shock for Demi's production company. It had cost $50 million to make, but earned only $10 million at the box office.
You put months and months of your life into a film. You put all of your emotion and all of your effort, you leave your kids to do a movie, and then people laugh at you. That is not a good feeling for anyone.
But Moore and Willis had investments outside of Hollywood that were paying off. In 4 short years, the Planet Hollywood restaurant chain had grown to 24 outlets in 9 countries, and it went public in early 1996, giving the company a market value of $2.7 billion.
Every couple hours, we like to open another one.
Moore continued to produce while taking on acting roles in big-budget films. By now, she was the highest-paid actress in history. She earned $7 million to star in The Juror opposite Alec Baldwin. The film grossed $45 million in theaters.
You get what the producers think you're worth. And it wasn't a matter of her putting her foot down. She didn't even have to be that demanding about it. They wanted her badly enough, and they were willing to pay what she could earn them.
Money aside, Moore claimed she was choosing roles her family would be proud of.
I don't think that I would choose anything that I would ever feel embarrassed for them to see.
But after The Juror, Moore chose a role that most mothers would avoid. Striptease was the story of a stripper. The script called for Demi to do a pole dance. For $12 million, she signed on.
No actress before had been paid $12 million. And that actually changed how actresses got paid.
You may wonder why she strips off at any given opportunity. She's appeared naked in 6 movies. She's been naked on the cover of Vanity Fair twice. She's been naked in European magazines. It's all an attempt to prove to herself that she's comfortable with her body.
Moore's 7-year-old daughter, Rumer, co-starred in the film, playing the daughter of Demi's stripper character.
If I did something that I was ashamed of, or that I didn't really want to do, then I think that would be something that I would never want them to find. But I'm not doing anything like that.
Unfortunately, the movie was utterly horrible, and it did really badly at the box office. That was really the turning point in her career, where she started to go into this downward spiral.
Striptease bombed at the box office. It pulled in barely $30 million, and Moore's fee chewed up a staggering $12 million of the profits. Many called it Demi's downfall.
That's, the nature of the beast. I think that there comes a certain point where you rise to a certain level, and I don't know if it's an American thing or not, where people want to tear you down.
Striptease was just a movie that was not accepted by the general public. And I think the people had just had enough of Demi Moore taking off her clothes, being a sexual predator.
She left the sweetness and the vulnerability that she had in Ghost. And so I always felt that choice, which was her choice, was part of what led to a turn in her career.
Moore was under fire in her personal life, too. The Willises were constantly the subject of tabloid rumors of infidelity and the breakdown of their marriage.
Demi was certainly putting on her own show, like dancing topless at a New York bar, and she was meant to have had a liaison with Leonardo DiCaprio, and there were other, sort of party animal things going on. Bruce, what he was up to, he was playing around, and that was also, they seemed to be living separate lives.
With her marriage on the rocks, Moore threw herself into her work. Her next project was 1997's G.I. Jane.
This followed Striptease, and by that time, I think the public had given up on Demi Moore, and so the fact that the audiences didn't go to see G.I. Jane most probably was a backlash from Striptease.
The film had all the right ingredients, but the critics' knives were out for Moore.
The critics were not kind to G.I. Jane, but neither was the audience. It might have been ahead of its time. Who knows how these things happen? When the audience really wants to go see a movie, they go.
There was also more bad news on Demi's home front. Moore had long been estranged from her mother, Virginia, who had jealously sold Demi's story and even childhood photos to the tabloids. Now, her mother was dying of cancer, and Moore went to her side in New Mexico.
But she went there and looked after her mother in the last, I think it was the last 3 months of her life. and Bruce also went up to support her.
But the strain on Moore and Willis was too much, and on June 24th, 1998, their publicist announced the couple's separation.
The end of the marriage was most probably put on hold because of Virginia, on her deathbed.
8 days later, Virginia died.
I think it was very tough for her when her mother died. She was trying to be a good daughter, trying to repair a relationship. You can't go back to childhood. You can't make up for all the things that either one of them didn't do right.
Moore responded to the loss of her mother and the end of her marriage by retreating from Hollywood.
Some thought she was running away because her career had tanked and her marriage had broken up. Those were definitely factors, but she had also decided to dedicate herself to raising her 3 daughters.
Moore took her children to their home in Haley, Idaho. She was determined to bring them up far away from the harsh glare of public life.
She grew up not having kind of a family life, always moving about, always being transient, having, a mother who was an alcoholic. And so she wanted to give her children what she probably never had.
She spent 8 years there being a mom and not exercising and eating healthily, and she rediscovered herself as a mother. She rediscovered her body, her sanity probably, and she re-emerged a much more centered and perhaps less selfish person.
Demi Moore had broken barriers in the film world, in her choice of movie roles, and in the millions she could command for her performances. But in 1998, she walked away. No one could predict that 6 years later, she would find herself back in Hollywood in a relationship with a hunky TV star 15 years her junior. The early 90s were a fabulous time for Demi Moore. Married to action hero Bruce Willis, she was the star of a string of hits that earned her more than $10 million each, a producer of films with a public profile that went well beyond acting. But by 1998, her marriage was over. Bad choices had hurt her film career, and she had run away from the world she'd worked so hard to conquer.
It was a time of figuring out and maturing for herself, finding some new spiritual guidance, finding some new ways to approach life. And she's never been shy. Demi's never been shy about the fact that she's a seeker of answers, a seeker of how do we live life, what's it all about. And I think that she gave herself some time to kind of catch up with that.
This was a grand opportunity in a way to actually become a mum and forget about Hollywood and until it was ready to say, come back, Demi, we've got this great role.
In 1999, the international entertainment empire Planet Hollywood filed for bankruptcy. Nearly 100 of the company's locations have since closed.
They've been bankrupt twice. Demi only had a small stake in the business, but it's still a little bit embarrassing.
And yet, there were some bright spots. Moore's production company, Moving Pictures, was doing very well with Mike Myers' hit spy spoof franchise, Austin Powers.
The Austin Powers movies were actually very, very successful. Tremendous blockbusters. So from kind of being an actress, she went to kind of being a top-rated movie producer.
Then, one day in 2002, Demi got an offer to take a role in a sequel to the highly successful Charlie's Angels movie.
Drew Barrymore came to her amazing part in Charlie's Angels. It was written specifically for Demi and persuaded her to come out of her semi-retirement.
Moore's daughters begged her to take the role of a fallen angel. In a triumphant comeback, Demi ran across a beach in a bikini.
The big mystery was, how's Demi gonna look in a bikini? And she looked amazing.
The movie was a smash hit.
Demi was back after this movie, and back in a way that most actresses past 30 don't get to be, back on her own terms.
Moore moved her family back to Hollywood. Back on the social scene, Demi went out for dinner one night and met Ashton Kutcher, a TV star 15 years her junior.
Ashton Kutcher's that guy from the 70s show. Ashton Kutcher's that guy from Punk'd. He, like Demi, is goofy and funny and full of life, but also very deep, a person who quests after the answers for life, a person very devoted to family, and I think both of them surprised each other when they met. From what Ashton has described to me, there was both an enormous amount of chemistry and an enormous amount of comfort, almost like this is who I'm supposed to be with.
But when Ashton popped the question, Demi had her doubts.
Well, he asked me to marry him on April Fool's Day. I wasn't quite sure if that was real or not, but that was, so it didn't turn out to be a joke, though.
The tabloid swore it wouldn't last. But in 2005, Moore and Kutcher were married in a Kabbalah ceremony at their home in Los Angeles.
Demi was involved in Kabbalah first, and it was a series of spiritual explorations that she's had over the years.
Moore's ex, Bruce Willis, was one of the guests at the wedding.
Bruce Willis was there, which sounds kind of weird, but it was very important to Demi and Bruce that they always presented a united front to their kids.
Moore's personal life was back on track, and she was working to get her career geared up again, too. In 2006, she starred in Bobby, a drama about the death of Bobby Kennedy, written and directed by her old boyfriend, Emilio Estevez.
Demi and Emilio kept a friendship through the years. They knew each other when they were young. There was a big bond there.
Emilio was the one that put her back on the map in terms of being a serious actress. So we hope to see more from her in that vein, and less in the head-shaving, like psycho stripper vein.
The film featured a long list of prominent actors in small roles. Moore shared the screen with another tough cookie, Sharon Stone.
It was like throwing these two tigresses in a cage and locking it and running away because we didn't know what was going to happen.
And to work with Demi was so great. To have this opportunity to work with a woman, it was just so great to share the real issues of women in our generation.
It could have been very difficult or awkward or power things that I feel like Sharon and I each just showed up more kind of down and dirty, rolling the sleeves up, saying, what can we do? How do we make this honest?
But Demi's career is a distant second to the life she has built with Kutcher. The couple are happy bringing up her 3 daughters and sharing the experience with Willis.
People go crazy when they talk about the fact that they vacation together, they're still friends, their priority is their daughters, they're not afraid to be seen together. It's kind of so ideal that people don't want to believe it.
They're very functionally dysfunctional. Like Bruce, Demi, Ashton, the kids, they hang out together, they go to ball games, they go on vacation.
With the help of her new husband, Moore got back into the movies in 2007, starring in Mr. Brooks with Kevin Costner.
Ashton, who Kevin Costner describes as one of the smartest guys he knows about film, was doing a film with Kevin Costner and just happened to take the script home to Demi and just happened to tell Kevin that he thought Demi would be good for that part.
If something comes along that suits her, I think she'll take it. She could just pick up a movie that, becomes a blockbuster.
Over the next couple of years, Demi played everything from a 60s jewelry heist accomplice in Flawless to the perfect suburban wife in The Joneses.
The intelligence is still there, the acting ability is still there, the beauty is still there, and I think the range is still there. It's just a matter of what she chooses to do.
In 2008, for the first time in her career, Demi chose to go behind the camera for her directorial debut. Directing her short film Street, starring daughter Rumor, proved to be an enlightening experience.
You are in the position of director versus actor, you really recognize so much more of the work that has to go into for an actor just to show up and be prepared to do your scene. And so I think that's really one of the greatest gifts.
Taking on the challenge of directing was fulfilling for Demi, but it's the opposite.
Alive, and I think without question, that is when I am giving, and when I am being of service, and whether that's one-on-one or within a group. The best way that we can give to ourselves is by giving to others, and by doing so, it also removes the separation between us.
Whether it was giving back, practicing Kabbalah, or parenting her daughters, Demi and Ashton always presented a united front until October of 2010. When the couple should have been celebrating their 6th wedding anniversary, rumors swirled that Ashton had been unfaithful, not once, but twice. Rather than make official comments regarding the alleged affairs, both Demi and Ashton took to their Twitter accounts. Demi tweeted, "When we are offended at any man's fault, turn to yourself and study your own failings. Then you will forget your anger." And Kutcher posted a link to Public Enemy's song Don't Believe the Hype, and later tweeted, "When you assume to know that which you know nothing of, you make an ass out of you and me." Demi's attempt to put drama behind her and focus on work in 2011 proved difficult. After launching the Real Men Don't Buy Girls celebrity campaign to educate people about child sex slavery, Demi posted a semi-nude photo of herself with the cryptic tweet, "Remember, you've got your own back." Some saw the comment as another response to Ashton's rumored infidelity. Demi closed out the year with 3 projects: Margin Call, Another Happy Day, and the anthology film 5, which Demi co-directed for Lifetime. Although 2011 ended on a professional high note, Demi's personal life was at an all-time low. In a statement to the Associated Press in November, Demi announced, "It is with great sadness and a heavy heart that I have decided to end my 6-year marriage to Ashton." Her announcement put the tabloids on Demi watch. First, reports about her noticeably gaunt appearance were everywhere. Then a couple of months later, the story broke that Demi was hospitalized for alleged substance abuse. As a result of her hospitalization, she dropped out of the Linda Lovelace biopic Lovelace and entered Utah's Cirque Lodge Rehabilitation Center for exhaustion.
It really comes from a desire and a willingness to make the effort, and it's and taking things as they come, and I think, you know, the more we're willing to give, the more that we can find balance.